Hello, everybody, and welcome in to another episode of the Couch GMs podcast. It is Thursday, January 29th, 2026. I'm your host, George Kurt, joined by the one and only Cody Roadcap. How you doing today, Cody?
I'm doing pretty good considering I haven't been able to watch football in a week. I guess it hasn't been quite a week. It feels like it because there was no Monday games, Thursday games, no college football playoffs. I guess I got the Pro Bowl to look forward to, whatever that joke of a mess is anymore. So Super
It's
Bowl
not even
can't get
really
here
a
soon.
game.
It's not even Super Bowl week. Can't even get excited about that.
No, well, plenty of time to talk about it as we get into next week, but we have an exciting show ahead of us. We're going to be talking some news, a couple of head coach and other coaching hires that happened, and we're going to be doing a fantasy look ahead on our way too early 2026 fantasy mock draft, one of my favorite episodes of the year. So make sure you're following us at the Couch GMs on Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok to get even more than do from the show. You can comment on the picks we make later. You can always stay in touch with us even through the rest of the playoffs and the off season. And you can watch us live Mondays and Thursdays at 6:30 East on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch through the Super Bowl and the week after. But in the meantime, Cody, let's see what is happening. All right. Starting with the news that broke earlier this week, Buffalo Bills, and I guess we kind of did call this a little bit, are promoting offensive coordinator Joe Brady to their head coaching role. I can't say it's too much of a shock. It was just a little bit of a shock that they got rid of McDermott to start with, but Joe Brady, who was primed to be a solid candidate for some other teams, stays in-house in Buffalo.
Yeah, I think the big thing for this one, man, it'd be great to have Mikey B back on from a couple weeks ago to hear his thoughts because I don't believe he was too excited about this one. I think he was on the train. If you're going to let go of McDermott, like it can't just be for Brady, but it sounds like Josh Allen was heavily involved. I think he really has a connection with Brady. I think once Dayball was off the table, it makes a ton of sense if how much Allen has a say. I do think it's one of the first times like you hear all the time, like, oh, the coaches, we're gonna, or the GMs or owners or whoever's doing the head coaching hires, like we're gonna get the players' input, or we're gonna hear from the head coach or from the quarterback on who they want or what kind of guy they're looking for. But this one feels like it was really like Josh Allen almost had like the final say, or was like, "Yep, I'm all on board with this one." Maybe it was because they got to the because of how late they let him go. It got too late for them. But Joe Brady stays. I thought the offense took a step back this year. Some people will say it's different wise, but doesn't move the needle for me. I'm sure a lot of Buffalo Bills fans feel the same way.
No, I think if they were going to move on from McDermott for the reasons that they said they were going to move on from it almost felt like they should have went to someone outside instead of now you're looking at it like, did anything really change? I feel like the only play it could have gone was potentially backwards. And that's not a hit on Joe Brady. I just think that Sean McDermott was a solid coach, and I don't know if he really deserved to be fired in that situation. But I think to a sense, the continuity is going to be good for Josh Allen with the offense. The problem is, I think we've come to the reality that they're going to have to do more in the draft and free agency to try to build up around Josh Allen on the offensive side. This modge podge of wide receivers that they have out there isn't putting them over the top. I know they tried the whole Keon Coleman thing that happened with the postseason press conference. That's one thing. That was obviously their guy they tried to get to fill that void. He's probably going to be a solid player, but he's not that guy. They need to go try to find that guy that they've been missing since Stephon Diggs was moved.
So a couple things to push back on that one. But before the overall sentiment, it was interesting in his introductory press conference that Joe Brady had today. I'm paraphrasing, but basically said like I was one of the coaches that was standing on the table for Keon Coleman. The best thing that ever happened to him was that I'm going to be the head coach. So I think that's like if he believes in him, he could get him more involved. If he can get Keon Coleman locked in, that could be something definitely worth monitoring on how that situation plays out. And I hear the cry of, this hodgepodge of wide receivers can't get me anywhere. We need a solid number one. There's two examples. One, I think if you look at Green Bay, and obviously I pay attention to them closely, their offense, it was one of the most efficient on the season. Jordan Love still is tied for the lead in postseason passing touchdowns, and he only played in Wild Card Weekend because of their weapons. There wasn't a one guy there. They were able to make it work. But I think an even better example is the team in their division in the playoffs or in the Super Bowl and the New England Patriots. There's not a guy there like Diggs isn't what Diggs was when he was in Buffalo. Some weeks it's Kayshon Boutte, some weeks it's Hunter Henry. Like I think they have to go out and get a true number one for Josh Allen is kind of overblown to a sense. Now on the flip side of it, like, well, look at the Seahawks. Like it's JSN and some other guys. Like Jake Bobo had his fourth catch of the year for a touchdown in the NFC Championship game. Like, so I get both sides of the spectrum. I think Joe Brady can get the most out of Josh Allen. I am worried about the defense taking a step back. Not only do they lose Sean McDermott, but their defensive coordinator. Last year, he's headed to Green Bay to be the linebackers passing game coordinator coach. So it's just Buffalo's at a very interesting spot, and I just have a hard time thinking today they got better.
Yeah, and I have one rebuttal back at you about the number one wide receiver theory. And I mean, maybe let's expand this to pass catchers because there's some tight ends out there that have been effective enough that they can be a number one target, eat a lot of catches, and really move an offense. One of those guys was Travis Kelce. And I'll say, like, every team that you can think of that got over the hump and won a Super Bowl in recent memory didn't really have the hodgepodge wide receiver theory. The Chiefs, their second time, you could say maybe. I should say their last two Super Bowls, I guess, but they had Kelce. So you can also make the argument of he was their number one receiver per se. Before that, their first Super Bowl, they had Tyreek Hill. He was their number one receiver by far. But other than that, it's like there's those teams that have those just guys are usually good enough to make the playoffs, but can't get over the edge. All the times Baltimore's done it, Green Bay, etc.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you expand to the tight ends, though, you could argue that would make them even more compelling to have because of the difference Kincaid made when he was there. And I think James Cook is, he's a very much a running back, but he plays into the offensive skill weapons as well. Maybe this Sunday if you see JSN completely dominate the Super Bowl and win MVP, or maybe he doesn't win MVP, but he's a big reason why Sam Darnold does. Or if the Patriots win and it's like Matt Collins catches two balls, Kayshon Boutte catches a ball, and then it's like, oh well, I think there's ways for both systems to work. I mean, even last year when it was the who was left, like the Commanders, obviously they didn't make it there. You could argue Terry McLaurin. I mean, he's still but is he a tier one wide receiver? I think he's really good. If I would probably put him at tier one, but he's not the guy you think of when you think best wide receivers in the league. Maybe he should be, and maybe that's a media perception. Uh, so I think it's always better to have a guy, but I think we've also seen plenty of cases where it's like, okay, if you can focus on that one guy, then you can take him out of the game. And I think, that's Bill Belichick thing of, we're gonna take away your best player, make you beat us with someone else. So having other people that can step up plays a big factor.
Yeah, and I mean when we're getting this far in, I can't just say like you have to have a guy and nothing else, because you're going to be able to scheme out one individual player. And I mean that could be good for a regular season game against the Raiders, but it's not necessarily going to be good for when you get deep in the playoffs into the Super Bowl. So you got a good point there too. But if you would add a number one receiver to this current Bills roster, you could say they'd have the guy and then they still have the complementary pieces. And like I'm glad you mentioned Dalton Kincaid because I do think he has the opportunity to take a step next year to being one of those elite 5 tight ends. He showed a lot of promise this year. He still had problems staying on the field with injury, but like we knew he had the ability. He showed flashes before. He showed even more this year. If he keeps progressing, he has a chance to be that number one target.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I'm just not I go back and forth on, do you need a number one? Do you need an eye? And like, I also think like Keon Coleman's talented. Like his issues have been from the outside looking in more of personal maturity, maybe is a good word for it. It doesn't look like it's a talent thing. At least, everything we've heard of from our outside perspective. Obviously, we're not there every day, and I think the head coach, chiming in for him, like maybe he becomes, a solid number one or number two option. Maybe Khalil Shakur is up there. I mean, I think Josh Allen is good enough to make whatever works around his quarterbacks, but I think the defense plays a big factor. And not that it was, they were pretty good against the pass this year, but they were not great against the run. And that's how they were able to be taken advantage of.
Very true. I'm cool with leaving the Bills talk there if you are, and we
One
can
more
move
thing
on. Okay.
about the Bills. It was also interesting to see Josh Allen sitting at the table for the introductory press conference today. But it did come out that he was playing with a broken right foot. I think it was his right, maybe his left, but it was 8 to 10 week injury. So he'll be back in plenty ago. But that was something that, we knew he was banged up, but we didn't know how banged up.
Yeah, I think we all kind of thought it was like ankle and then all the other things he was getting banged up on, especially in that first playoff game against Jacksonville. But yeah, broken foot. It was more serious than we thought, and he still played very well for being on a broken foot. So props to him.
For sure.
Moving on to a head coaching hire I didn't think was going to happen until the last one on the board, but they pulled the trigger. The Cleveland Browns, after having everybody basically pull out of their head coaching search, decided to hire former Ravens offensive coordinator Todd Monken as their new head coach. Biggest news coming along with this is also their defensive coordinator, Jim Schwartz, who was in for the job, basically just said, I didn't get the head coaching job, I'm out. So they do go and get a solid coach from a division rival that I personally didn't think was going to be a head coach, but think he could be a good one. And then they lose one of the best defensive coordinators in the league, more than likely, in the aftermath.
Yeah. I just thought of something I want to circle back for the Bills then too, but we'll talk about the Browns for a second. This talk about interesting moves. I thought Jim Schwartz was going to get the job. The defense was the only thing that was good. I think if there's any way they can work this out, like I know he's upset now, but like if there's any way they could work this out, I think that would be the best situation for the Browns. But I completely get why he's like, I'm out. And it sounds like this conversation didn't just start once they hired Monken. It was like during his interviews, it'd be like, if we went with someone else, would you be willing to stay? And he was like, no, I don't want to do that. I know, Myles Garrett did not seem to approve of this one, if we're reading into cryptic Instagram posts, so to speak.
My
But
favorite activity.
he definitely seemed disappointed. And I mean, maybe Short should get out of Cleveland. Like he had that defense humming. They went with an offensive guy, and I get why they went with an offensive guy, getting the quarterback right, whether that is, getting Shadur Pro Bowl quarterback ready for his second year, or if it's trying to go again for another guy, maybe the resurgence of one Deshaun Watson off of 2 Achilles injuries, whatever the situation might be, like that just seems like a tough spot to be in. This feels like another one and done head coach. No offense to Todd Monken. I saw something on the internet, and I don't know, you can't believe everything on the internet, but like the hiring firm wanted, recommended that they hired Nate S from the Rams, and Jimmy Haslam's like, I don't know if I can trust him, and then like went out on it, decided on his own to go hire Todd Monken too. So like the Browns continue to be the Browns, push out the best thing that they had going for them, hire, a guy that has never been a head coach before, and it's just a interesting situation all around. I think Schwartz was going to be great, depending on the situation. I don't think he's going to get the head coaching job for the Raiders. I think it's going to be Clint Kupiak after the Super Bowl. I think they're kind of just waiting that one out. But I think him transitioning to the Raiders and getting to play Max Crosby in the Myles Garrett role, and with that defense and like that edge and tenacity, I think that'd be a lot of fun. Not saying it happens, but I think that'd be a good rebound spot.
Yeah, because the Falcons already have a DC in place now. It was too long, correct?
The DC Ulbrich stayed in place for the Falcons.
Yeah. because I thought there was a chance he could have followed Stefanski as well, but that was filled by another candidate by this point. I don't think Schwartz gets a head coaching job in Vegas either, but like
Maybe
I
Arizona,
have
because
to.
who knows what they're doing.
Yeah, that's very true. That could happen. And I'm not even saying Jim Schwartz is the best head coach. I think he's one of the best defensive coordinators in the league. I'm not sure if that carries over to head coach in this case, but I don't think he'd be a bad one either. But for the Raiders' sake, it just feels to me like they could have promoted Schwartz to head coach and brought Monken in as the offensive coordinator. The only way that wouldn't have worked, and obviously we don't know all the back talks, is like, what did Monken want to follow Harbaugh to New York?
Yeah, it sounded like Monken was in place, so maybe like that pipe dream is out, but
yeah,
I don't know.
And if that's the case, the only way the Browns get Monken is making him head coach. So then there's that. But I still think it was wrong for them to prioritize Monken over Schwartz in this case.
I would agree. And since I mentioned Clint Kubiak to the Raiders, I want to tie that back into my comment about the Bills. And this is just an overall situation. And we're seeing this in college football with NIL and the trading portal. We might need to reevaluate the coach hiring calendar process, because I don't know if you saw that because Sean McDermott got fired after the divisional round because he was still playing, they were not allowed to even interview Clint Kubiak until after the Super Bowl. So he was like never really a candidate for. Now you could argue like, why not just wait for Clint Kubiak after the Super Bowl at this point? Like it's only 2 weeks. But they started doing second interviews and they couldn't even get to, because of like a weird quirk in the schedule and like not allowing to do interviews and stuff like that. They had to wait till after the Super Bowl. So seems odd. And I think Kubiak would have been a lot of fun for Josh Allen. But I think him and Fernando Mendoza will be fun in Vegas as well.
Cody throwing out all his takes. But no, that is really weird. And I already thought it was weird enough with the whole how you can interview coaches that are still in the playoffs, because you have to think, I mean, I don't know the statistics on this, but 90% of the coaches that get hired to head coaching jobs are on teams that made the playoffs. I would make a bet. There's a couple of probably like retread coaches on gap years, but most of them are coordinators that were on.
Maybe not this year, as I'm now thinking about like
some of them were retread coaches that got fired that missed the playoffs. That's fair.
Yeah, but in most years it feels like it's a lot of coordinators, losing in the wild card round, because then you can interview. You can obviously do the virtual interviews and stuff like that in a weird way, but yeah, I know the NFL would never do it because like it's a 365 business, but it almost just feels like, let's have the head coaches free agency essentially between the Super Bowl and the combine. Like, I think that's like a 2-week period. Let's just, do a bunch of head coaches. I get people, they want to have their coaches in place by the combine, which is why that makes that so difficult. But
I mean, like, do a legal tampering period situation where the bye week before the Super Bowl is your legal tampering period.
That's not a bad idea. You can
start. That gives you 2 extra weeks essentially, and then as soon as the Super Bowl is over, you're allowed to announce head coach hires.
Yeah, virtual interviews the week before the Super Bowl, and then you can do. That's a pretty good idea.
Yeah, and then you get people in place, because I'm sure if they have that tampering window, they would have a lot of like, this head coaches agreed to terms in that week. And there's only 2 teams then you're dealing with still having a horse in the race. Almost everybody's going to be free and available. So I don't hate that idea. And you're going to have plenty of time to get them in place before the combine.
And I think, too, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe it's just been worded differently. I feel like this year we've had, because of the amount of turnover, which is a lot, I think there's been so many offensive coordinators that, like Brian Daboll, or even defense coordinators, Brian Flores, was like, they're going to take the defensive coordinator or the offensive coordinator job, bearing they don't get a head coach job. And it's like,
yeah,
that seems
teams even interviewing for coordinators, thinking their coordinator is going to leave, but while he's still in place. We've seen that too.
Yeah. Or like letting contracts run out because you think you're going to get a head coaching job and then filling the role and then they don't get the head coaching job, like a Matt Nagy. And then now
Yeah.
Matt Nagy is out there. So, I mean, there is a part of me that's like, hey, let the bad teams get the good coaches and get an early process on that, like to get things ready. However, it just feels different, especially when you see things like Kubiak couldn't even interview for the Bills because of timing.
Yeah. That one kind of rubs me the wrong way. And it's still not even necessarily true that the bad teams are going to get the coaches. A lot of these coaches, if they know that they're highly regarded, are going to interview with the bad teams, but they're probably going to still hold out to talk to the good teams before they make a decision. And the good teams are still going to be just as or more in the race.
Yeah, unless the other team is like, hey, if you want this job, you have to take it now. Which I
and
think
then 99% of the time, if they're like, I can still be an OC somewhere or a DC somewhere, they would still not take it if they really don't want it.
Depending, I think experience matters. Like if you
Fair.
told me, a young offensive coordinator getting his first head coaching opportunity versus like Kevin Stefanski, who could have been a little bit more selective. Like I think experience matters. How many, you don't get as many chances. Like some of the guys that got interviewed this year that didn't get it, their team will take a step back and not even be a candidate next year. So and I think that does play a factor into it.
And we went deeper into this Brown situation than we thought, but do you still remember what you want to say about the Bills before we move on to our next?
Yeah, it was the Kubiak
Okay.
Couldn't be hired. So we talked about that too.
Got it. Perfect. One more piece of news before we get into our mock draft. Sean Mannion was hired as Eagles offensive coordinator right before we came on the air. That was probably one of the biggest OC jobs still available. And I know, Cody, you're very familiar with Mannion and his meteoric rise through the coaching ranks.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too familiar with him. I mean, he's only been coaching for 2 years. He was a assistant QB coach, then he became the QB coach, and now he's an offensive caller, calling plays. He's obviously had, he worked under the floor. He was coached by Kevin O'Connell and Sean McVay. The offense that he is going to run. On the surface, it might not look like the best offense for a Jalen Hurts, so to speak. Like, does that quarterback mold fit the Sean McVay offense, the Matt LaFleur, the Kevin O'Connell offense? I will say, I think an underrated part of why he probably got this job was the development of Malik Willis. Probably the reclamation project, priority free agent, however you want to describe it, quarterback of the offseason. When he had to come and fill in, he did a great job. He looked good. He looked better than he ever did in Tennessee, and he might get a starting opportunity this year. So I think it's an interesting hire. I think if it works out, I think it's one of the situations though, like based on the rise he is on, if it works out, is he a head coaching candidate next year despite only being 34? Is he that impressive in interviews? The one hesitation I do have, while I do think he's a very good head coach and I hate to lose him in Green Bay, he only had 1 year being the quarterbacks coach, and he was the assistant quarterback coach, which is under Tom Clemens, which a lot of people probably don't even know who that is, which is fine because you probably can't name all 32 quarterback coaches in general. But Tom Clemens is, regarded as one of like the elite quarterback coaches. I know for our group chat, I referenced it to like imagine Jeff Stoutland's assistant. Stoutland retires, he gets the O-line coach for 1 year and then becomes a play calling offensive lineman. And it's like, well, the offense, I mean, Jordan Love was already on a rise. I mean, he had a good season this year. I would say better than last year because of the injury, but he was on a rise. How much of that was the coaching previously by the veteran? How much of that was the young influence? How much of it was Mannon's experience? So I think there's a lot of question marks. But Eagles fans, get used to hearing about how well running our wide receivers block, because that is a very important part of this offense. What that means for your two stud wide receivers now, whether they're both still there, one of them still there, none of them are still there. I don't think that's actually a realistic option, but get used to, when you're looking at the draft prospects, them short, 5'11", 175 speed guys that everyone, wants. That's not coming to Philly. They want the 6'1", 205 guys that like to block on the edge.
They already did have a pretty big emphasis of people on the edge blocking from the wide receiver position with the previous system they had in place, because obviously that was a big part of the Saquon Barkley 2,000-yard season as well. And I think that's a big reason why they made this hire, because they know they're going to try to run a run-first offense. I think they have to find somebody that makes Hurts more comfortable with getting the ball out of his hand quickly. I don't think it's going to be a seamless transition. Like you said, this offense doesn't feel like a Jalen Hurts offense, but I think if they can find things that he's comfortable with, this is going to be a good step in the progression of Jalen Hurts to the next part of his career, because we have to be honest, he's not a young quarterback anymore. A lot of these mobile quarterbacks, you almost hit this breaking point in their career where do they start to break down because they can't run as effectively, or do they start to adjust and become a better passer? We've saw both sides. Like Lamar Jackson, he's become a better passer as he's aged. And then there's the Cam Newton kind of player who, had a couple injuries and then didn't really become a great pocket passer. And you saw him kind of fizzle out very quickly. I'm not saying Jalen Hurts at the end of his career by any means, but I do think bringing someone in who tries to get him more comfortable with getting to the back foot and getting the ball out is a good idea.
Yeah, I think that will be a big thing, and I would just like look at the Malik Willis stuff, and obviously that probably doesn't work for a full set. Like he's going to have to evolve as a passer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, but we've been saying that no matter who. Like if they brought Brian Daboll in, who he has experience, it'd be like, yeah, but we still want to see him evolve as a quote unquote pocket passer. But I think the strong run game and the play actions are going to be the big thing for him, and I think he will have a solid season. And my big question, though, about this hire for you, and maybe the winter meetings change this answer completely because it's out of the play. Does Sean Mannion put the tush push in the playbook coming from Green Bay?
I think even if Sirianni says that he's handing the reins of the offense over to somebody else, which obviously he said that if they had the right candidate, he would. I don't know if this is the right candidate or if he's still going to have a lot of his influence in there. I think that's the one thing that they're going to keep in the playbook regardless.
Mannion's going to call plays. I'm like 99% sure he's going to call plays. It'll be his offense. I don't think he leaves Green Bay if he's not going to call plays. I think Green Bay would rather have promoted him to OC. And
because LaFleur calls plays, yeah.
But LaFleur calls plays. So once it was like, oh, he's going to call plays, there's really nothing we can do for, like, we can't even give you our OC job. Maybe that, that's just the gut feeling I have.
Yeah, no, it's possible. But I still think unless something changes on the offseason, I think it's going to be in the playbook. Unless they decide that it wasn't effective this year because it wasn't, and they want to take it out for that reason, or if they start to try it next year, it's still not effective, and then they move on for that reason.
Or it's just banned.
Yeah, or it's just banned. Exactly. That's the other thing that could happen this offseason. But I feel like that's less likely since everything went down this year and it was not as effective. I feel like the more traditional quarterback sneaks were the more effective plays for the most part this year. The biggest plays I saw that were tush pushes this year, I saw one from Josh Allen that went for 10 yards in the playoffs, and I saw a couple of different fake tush pushes that went for touchdowns, one by the Ravens, a couple by the Eagles. Other than that, the tush push was very ineffective this year overall.
I think it was still pretty effective.
It was like 60% by the Eagles. So,
yeah, they had a down year, but I think overall, like every team has, and it's still not, well officiated. I think we're like, that's still the Eagles weren't effective because, like, when they started calling offsides or illegal formations or false starts or whatever the penalty was. Like, and not just the Eagles, across the league. Like, once they like more emphasize alignments, and maybe it doesn't get banned, but they just like really harp down on alignments and stuff like that. But we have all the time in the world to talk about that. We're 30 minutes in. We haven't even got to the fun part of this episode.
Yeah, so why don't we just jump right in and go to our way too early mock draft?
Pretend I hit a bumper.
Oh, Okay. Cool.
You want me to hit it?
One of my favorite episodes of the you actually don't have it. Got it. One of my favorite episodes of the year. So instead of the Pro Bowl, Cody and I are going to go through and we're going to do 4 rounds of a 2026 fantasy football mock draft. Cody and I are going to go back and forth. He's going to be in control of the odd team. So 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. I'm going to be even teams 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. We're going to do a 10-team half PPR. Basically, just trying to predict what fantasy drafts are going to look like once we come back to the fall. We are usually in the ballpark, but a lot changes when you see how the draft goes, how free agency goes. It's nice that we have a lot of coaches in place at least to give us a little bit of like an idea of what things are going to look like next year. But I'm interested to see how you and I's rankings differ as we get into this exercise.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's a great time if you're listening on the podcast form to check out on YouTube. We will have a spreadsheet up. George will be typing in the answers because not all the mock draft platforms are up to date yet. That's why it's a way too early version for that. But you want me to just tell you my pick?
Yeah, we can just jump right in. We're doing 4 rounds, so we have we can elaborate a little bit, but I think we can keep it moving at the same time.
Sounds good. Maybe we'll even do a 5th. We'll have to wait and see how this is rolling.
Yeah.
I think round 1 is extremely interesting this year. We saw a little bit of resurgence of running backs. There's still some top wide receivers out there. And the part that makes this the most difficult is we don't know all the situations. Are people getting traded? Who are the new head coaches in some spots? They're still open for air. How do new head coaches play a factor? How do new play callers play a factor? There's like 18 new offensive coordinators this year. It's like a very interesting situation. All that to say, at the end of the day, when I look at all the players out there, despite me being a wide receiver favorite guy, there's a running back that I'm going to take here at 101, and I am going to take Bijan Robinson. Maybe it's the playoff hype, but he gets Kevin Stefanski. We've seen Stefanski have solid running backs back in the Nick Chubb days. I like Bijan a lot. I think they're going to get him involved. The quarterback situation does scare me because I think probably going to release Kirk Cousins. Don't know about Michael Penix Jr. and as he rebounds, but I'll still take Bijan 101.
He was going to be my 101 also, and I think there's at least a solid, I want to say 4 or 5 in my tier 1. I haven't really decided where my break for tier 1 is.
I have a 5.
You have a 5. I am between a 4 and a 5, but I have Bijan at number 1 as well. But I think we're in the same situation as a lot of years where there's not necessarily a breakout number 1 pick. There's maybe 2, 3 guys you could pick, but Bijan I think is going to be the number 1 pick in most cases. So I don't mind you doing that.
Yeah, you're up.
All right. Team 2 is me. We are going to go with a wide receiver here. And my wide receiver go-to could have been a couple different guys. I'm going to go with Puka Nacua at pick 2. And maybe part of that is they have Davante Adams. You have to think their offense was so good this year, it's going to take a step back. But I have a hard time believing Puka is going to be the step back. I think Davante Adams getting less red zone touchdowns is a better chance of being the step back. Not saying that Davante Adams isn't going to be a great player. I don't think he's going to be in the top 5 wide receivers at the end of the year like he was this year. He might be more like wide receiver 12, 15. Puka has a chance to be wide receiver 1 next year.
I like Puka. I was concerned about drop off having a great season. I'd say that about Jackson Smith and Jigba, who might be my pick here. He'd be one of the names I'd be considering. I'm also looking at Jahmyr Gibbs because he would be in my list as well. However, based on what we know today, one Mr. Joe Burrow is still the quarterback in Cincinnati. And if that's still the case, I'm still taking Jamar Chase.
Oh, I spelled it wrong. Okay. So I think you're slightly more bullish at this point than me. And I might have a recency bias issue because, I mean, he did have a great year when Burrow was in there. But them missing the playoffs, them not having a lot of hype right now, I think kind of hurts that. He was my teetering between tier 1, tier 2. But at pick 3, I could see it. Like by the time everything settles, when we get 7, 8 months from now, I wouldn't be shocked by him being pick 3.
I mean, he started a pretty great season despite having Joe Burrow miss so much time. Obviously, Joe Flacco came in and saved that from the Jake Browning experience. But I mean, he had 18 or more points all but one time since week 13 and on. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I think T. Higgins is gone. I think
that's true, but does that help or hurt? Because I mean, like when you look at it, like he probably gets even more targets. Not that he really needs more targets, but that team's been better with T in there than it's been without.
But they've also been fine without him because he's missed a lot of time with injuries. Maybe they find a way to keep him. I just feel like based on that contract that he signed last year, it was like, oh, this is definitely like a one and done or a one and restructure kind of thing.
Yeah. Hey, I don't mind it. I'm going to go to pick 4, and I'm going to be happy that you left 2 guys in my tier 1. I'm going to juggle a little bit, and I'm going to go with the running back, and I agree with what you said. I'm going to go Jahmyr Gibbs.
That was the one I was debating between him and Jamar Chase. So
I don't think there's any argument of Gibbs had a great year. He's still a young, rising running back. He has a chance to be running back 1, player 1 at the end of next season, especially with how much more work he got this year with Montgomery being phased out, and Montgomery might be gone.
Yeah. And then, so for team 5, just throw in Jackson Smith and Jigba. Incredible year. Could there be some regression between him and or Sam Darnold? Sure. But he's a really good player. And I honestly think any one of this is my 5. And as of right now, you can talk me into taking any of them at 1 and any of them being there at 5.
Yeah. I mean, and I this year I've actually found out I enjoy a lot more picking near that 1-2 turn, like down picks 9, 10. But if you're on that mindset still of wanting to take one of the top 5 guys, I think even when the dust settles in the fall, around a pick 4 or 5 situation are going to be your top tier guys.
Yeah. Pick 4 seems like a good spot this year.
Yeah, I agree with that.
On January
we'll see
29th.
what it looks like. We'll see what it looks like when we go around to round 2 here. Meanwhile, pick 6, I'm in tier 2. I'm just going to throw the name out there. I'm not going to pick him. I'm questioning where CMC falls in this because we saw how good he can be. There's no denying he has a chance to be running back 1 or 2 if he stays healthy, because every year he's been healthy, he's done that. But he rarely stays healthy after a year he does that. We're in the down year if we're looking at the trend. For that reason, I'm going to take Jonathan Taylor at pick 6, but I was tossing between the 2.
Yeah, I think this situation is tough because the next tier is like of running back specifically. There's a lot of, Jonathan Taylor. Are you going to get first half Jonathan Taylor or second half Jonathan Taylor? Christian McCaffrey, is he going to be healthy? Devon Achane, how does he look without Mike McDaniel? He's another one on this list, so to speak. But yeah, I think Taylor would have been my next running back pick. I don't know if he would have been my next pick.
Okay.
For me, I am kind of, stuck here on. I'm looking at the wide receivers and like Amon-Ra St. Brown is like staring me in the face. Like, all this dude is catches passes. Like he's Jared Goff's safety blanket, but you saw Jameson Williams come on. They have a new offensive coordinator. Where do you like him to fall? And I still think that's pretty high. And then there's the CeeDee Lamb question for me, not knowing if George Pickens is going to be back. I assume he is. So that's how I'm going to, make my assumptions here with him. And I'm going to go ahead and take Amon-Ra St. Brown in this spot.
I don't think it's a problem. I'm not worried about the offensive coordinator change because they just had one this year as well, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. And a play caller changed in the middle of the year too, and he still was dominant. So I have no worries about Amon-Ra St. Brown. All he does is catch patches. I think the reason he's down here in the second half of the first round is because he's not really ever been the flashy name, but he's one of the more consistent players in the NFL.
Yeah, I feel like he's a very safe pick like he might not ever have the be in the consideration for the Triple Crown, but he's going to be like Puka, Jackson Smith, and Jigba, Jamar Chase. Those are guys that like if they led the league and if they were Triple Crown winners, you feel great. Amon-Ra St. Brown is very high up there, and I think that would be a solid pick.
Yeah, Amon-Ra St. Brown's the guy you're like, he's going to get you 1,400 yards and 10 touchdowns a year.
If not,
and you're going to be happy with that in fantasy, but it's not like Triple Crown. Exactly. Pick 8. Still juggling if I go CMC here. And I feel like there has to be a place when you get to the bottom half of the first round, especially when you're like, I'll take the risk pick on CMC and come back and take a safer pick in round 2. But I think I'm going to push him one more and see if you take him. And I'm going to go with CD Lamb at pick 8. I think CD Lamb had a little bit of a down year because of injury. And I'm interested to see if George Pickens comes back or not, because I honestly think he took a little away from CD Lamb, but it wasn't enough to really see it in fantasy, except for maybe like there was one random dud game.
Yeah, I see it. I was debating between him and Amon-Ra St. Brown, so I kind of wish you would have took CMC. Would have made my pick very easy. Yeah. And I have a pick. I feel like he might be a little bit lower than some people want or have him at this current spot. So maybe I'm going to play the game a little bit because you keep talking about CMC. And I'm going to take CMC for Team 9 and see if I can get the guy that I wanted to take on the turn.
Interesting, because you're not normally doing you're doing this, I guess, at the Team 9-10 turn, but normally it's like, oh, I'm going to take someone at Team 8 and then see if I can get him a Team 10. Like, it's a little different because we're drafting against ourselves with 5 teams, but I see what you're saying here. I think that's probably a fair spot for where he's going to fall, because there's going to be somebody who's going to take the risk on him in the first round, and it's worth it because there's the boom potential, but the bust potential is massive.
All right, who do you got?
I like my turn here. I think to round out the first round, I got to pick my guy, Devon Achane. He's never been in the first round, but I think he's been consistent for long enough that he's proven he can be a first round pick. And he might end up like settling in at an early second round pick, but this is a much better spot for how he's been over the last few years, I think.
Okay. My guy's
and
still
then
alive.
I'm going to go to the wide receiver position. This one, I'm between 3 guys. And I'll see if Cody's eyebrows raise. I'm going to look down closely at my screen. The 3 guys are Drake London, who I'm concerned about the quarterback position there. Malik Neighbors, who was phenomenal before the injury, but obviously the injury. And Rashee Rice, who I think they're going to have Mahomes back. That's no problem. Rice came out of the gates so hot when he came back from his suspension, but kind of cooled off a little bit near the end. And then I think there might even be more trouble brewing potentially for him. So he's just a little bit of a sketchy character. Because I think Achane's a safe pick, I'm going to take a more risky one. I'm going to go Malik Neighbors with the first pick of the second round.
Interesting. He scares me just because of like him still like using crutches and being on that they keep talking about. And I think there was verbiage just like hopes to be good to go for the start of training camp. And it's like,
yeah,
that concerns me. But I think there's the upside there. I think the Team 10 turn right there, like there's a lot of upside, but like I also see scenarios where it falls on your face.
Yeah, and if I end up with CMC at pick 10, I'm not touching Neighbors. I'm probably going London, but you also have to look at injury problems with London too. He missed a lot of games this year.
So, but I'm back on the clock, and the guy I got, he is still there. I don't know why he isn't being talked about more. I mean, I do know why, but we just talked about his new offense coordinator. Give me the Saquon Barkley. Pair him with Christian McCaffrey. Maybe this one falls on my face as well, and it's just two solid candidates, but 2 years in a row, the top running backs on one team, getting Saquon Barkley in the second round feels like the CMC of this year, or feels like the Jonathan Taylor for the first half of the season. It's like, wait a second, did we really overthink this one?
Yeah, I agree with that. He was like, I was looking at a couple different sources, like projected out rankings, just to kind of get an idea of like where the fantasy community thinks people are going to fall. I was shocked to see how low he was. And it's a lot of recency bias. And I think the news of like, no one wants to be offensive coordinator in Philly doesn't help either. But he was still solid despite having a down year. And I mean, if you get to get him in the second round, or even sometimes if he falls down to the third coming draft season, he could be a league winner because of the value.
No, I completely agree with that situation.
All right. Team 8's got CD Lamb. I'm going to go pair him with a running back, and that running back for me is going to be James Cook.
I don't hate that one. Just for, you mentioned the different sources, the one that, they put out, 24 days ago on ESPN has James Cook as RB6 heading into next year and Saquon down as RB11, which I think is crazy. But anyways, I like the James Cook pick. All for me to say that.
Yeah, he's a little on the inconsistent side, but like when he booms, he wins you a week. And I think that pair with CD Lamb's actually a really good team if you can pull that off come September.
All right. For me, team 7, Amon-Ra St. Brown obviously took a wide receiver there. And I do want to be, mindful of like legit drafting a wide, I'm not going to take 4 wide receivers or 4 running backs for one team because that's not how fantasy drafts will go. I want to be mindful of that, even though we're alternating picks. That's what makes this a little bit different than like a straight up rankings per se. Now, where am I going to go there? I think if you, oh man, am I overthinking? I'm going to take Drake London. I'm going to pair him with Amon-Ra St. Brown. Give me a solid wide receiver. I think at this point the running backs are, a little bit dried up in terms of, you're taking second year guys a lot in this spot right now. Which some of them will be good. Some of them will be top 5. I don't doubt that. But I'm going to take Drake London, pair him with Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think you have the safeness in Amon-Ra St. Brown and the big boom potential in Drake London.
I was going to go London next, and I think I might rock the boat a little bit per se with my next pick now. And it's not going to be a tight end. I'm not going to pick a tight end quite yet. But I'm going to go second running back. And I'm going to pair Taylor with Derrick Henry here.
Wow.
Henry's kind of like a little lower as well in a lot of people's rankings so far, like beginning round 3. But I mean, I think this past year, again, we saw like the man gets pushed down to like early round 2 and then produce like a mid round 1 pick. So let's say, you push him down now to early round 3. If we move him up a half round, if he just produces in that spot again, I'm happy.
Finishes RB11 last year. So, I mean,
I guess it wasn't as pretty in the middle part of the year, but he finished very strong.
So, but he is,
what he typically does too, honestly.
So that was not what I saw coming there. All right. That puts me on the clock with team 5, Jackson Smith and Jigba. And I'm going to go here. I'm going to go running back. I'm going to take the second year guy. This is all hype and anticipation. He dealt with a lot of injuries this last year as a rookie, but I'm going to take Omarion Hampton. You already started typing it.
There was 2 guys I knew you were between. And when you said the hype, I'm like, it's Omarion Hampton.
Yeah. And I'm just going to, you took Devon Achane, and who is, they want to run the ball. They brought in Mike McDaniel. Mike McDaniel gets a lot out of the running backs. So I think I have a safe pick in Jackson Smith and Jigba. I'm willing to risk it a little bit at the running back and take Omarion Hampton.
I was hoping I could pull him down towards like end of round 2. So that's a good pick there. to pair with Jahmyr Gibbs in team 4, I'm going to go wide receiver again. I have Rashee Rice, who I mentioned earlier, but I think there's another guy who didn't get a lot of recognition near the end of the season. He actually ended up getting hurt in the playoffs. I'm going to go with Nico Collins here.
I like it. I'm going to keep the wide receiver run going here. And maybe this one is a reach. I don't care. I have Jamar Chase. I'm taking the flyer on Justin Jefferson.
He was another guy that was in the back of my head that I was hoping I could get a little bit more value out of. It's interesting to me because he could come right back and be a first-round wide receiver again, and there's a chance you can get him in round 3 if we're looking at this early.
Yeah, and he had a really down year. He still finished as wide receiver 14 with over 1,000.
That's crazy.
I believe that would be correct. I looked at that very quickly, but still, I don't know if maybe I looked at the wrong thing because that does seem a little high. However, he had over 1,000 yards, which that alone would probably get him in the top 20.
All right. I am in a bind here.
Oh, no.
So we're on a short turn for team 2 here. They have Puka. The running back, little bit weak at this point, but team 1 has Bijan. And what's the fun if I play this safe? I'm going to play this bold, and I mentioned a tight end. I'm going to take Trey McBride.
Okay, I like it. I like the trade.
Is this a better spot to go first tight end in this exercise this year rather than last year? You were grilling me for how early I took Brock Bowers.
Yeah, I think this is like the end of round 2 is a good spot for him.
Okay.
I think the quarterback question marks, are concerning a little bit. Like, are they going to run it back with Brissett, who likes to target him? How does that situation play out? But I like McBride a lot, so I'll take that. I think it was 24 for Justin Jefferson, not 14. I think I got my numbers wrong, but still, that doesn't matter. He still has the high upside potential. I probably could have got him in round 3, but I'm just going to let him sit there and stew. But I like the McBride pick, which puts me back on the clock. And for me, I am struggling with this pick.
It's a weird part of the draft.
Yeah, I said pick 4 is a good spot. I like the Jahmyr Gibbs, Nico Collins pair, and I think there's a bunch of guys here that are going to make it back to like really make it good. Here on the turn is really tough for me, and Rashee Rice is sitting there, but I'm going to be honest. I know this is a way too early mock draft, and I should be looking at this as, where would I take this player if he was healthy, ready to go? And he is healthy. It just sounds like there might be more troubles headed his way, which does scare me. It's probably the person I should pick.
Yeah, and that's how I've been these last few picks. But I'm like, I candy this guy. I candy this guy.
But so I will take him, and I will take him with my first pick in the 3rd round.
Okay.
But to keep this in order, here I will go with one. You know what? Give me Chris Olave.
I like it
as round out the round, and then pick it up with Rashee Rice.
I don't mind that combo at all. And Olave is, I'm glad his value is this high because it deserves to be. I don't think he had the recognition during the season of how well of a year he was actually putting together. And he stayed healthy, which is another big thing that, he had concussion problems. He was debating retiring because of it. Excuse me. It was nice to see a rebound. And I think this is a very good spot for him to go.
Yeah, I like that.
All right, that's Olave and Rice off the board. And that means that I did have my one running back fall back to me. And there's still a lot of question marks, but they have a number 1 overall pick. He's a second-year running back. I get Team 2's RB1 to be Ashton Genty.
I have a hard time picking him right now, but I get it. He probably should have been a little bit higher, but I get that one
Yeah.
for sure.
Well, I mean, I think him and Rashee Rice are in the same situation for different reasons. Rashee Rice, you don't know what's going to happen with his off-field situations, and he does technically have a quarterback that's hurt, but I think he's going to be fine to start the year. Ashton Genty is on a horrible team, but he still rushed for 1,000 yards as a rookie with a horrible team.
Yeah. So that is a good play. I need a running back here. Because I took 2 wide receivers, so I would like to get this team a running back. And I think of the running backs that are left, there isn't, a ton of great options here. But I think I will, although I did see Chase Brown and the Bengals are talking extension, which could be interesting. But I already have Jamar Chase. So I will go with Bucky Irving, and hopefully he stays healthy this year.
I like the Bucky Irving pick there because he fell down. I'm convinced he fell down boards because of his injury earlier in the year. And then they never really gave him the full reins back afterwards because they were like, we have these guys who have been successful. We're going to let White still have the passing down work. We're going to still use, why can't I remember the guy that had to want a random 2-week breakout at the goal line?
That was White.
Sean Tucker.
Oh, Sean Tucker. Yeah, he did.
So like there was a 3-headed monster when it got to the end of the year, but I am convinced Bucky Irving's too good to stay in that split for long.
All right. I like it. I know I made the pick. You're up. I was thinking I was up.
All right, cool. Team 4, Jahmyr Gibbs, Nico Collins, very balanced. I can kind of go anywhere here. Interesting part of the draft, man. I'll keep drafting upside. And because there's a couple running backs in this area that I'm like, they could be great, but they could be bad. And guys like Josh Jacobs and Breece Hall, I'm not saying Josh Jacobs is going to be horrible. Green Bay runs the ball a lot. He's been effective. Breece Hall, I don't know what to think of the Jets. But the 2 running backs that have my eye here are Travion Henderson and Chase Brown. Travion Henderson might end up being an RB1 next year, but it's kind of hard to see what New England's going to do with him. Chase Brown is an RB1, and we just have to see if the team can stay together when they should have fired their head coach. But I am going to go with Travion Henderson. I think we lost Cody.
Nope, sorry. I got there was some tweets that were coming out, and I thought it might have been a head coaching thing. I was getting ready to hit the button, but it was just Davis Webb withdrawing his name from the Texans or the Raiders head coaching job, as it seems like they're narrowing in on Clint Kubiak.
Not a shocking call there.
And it also sounds like, Davis Webb could also just end up being the OC in Denver after they let go of their guy as well.
Okay.
But to your pick, I do like Travion Henderson a lot. Don't clip this. And I highly doubt, I'm putting this at a 2% chance. There is a 2% chance Josh Jacobs gets cut this year.
Wow.
And
okay.
He's just getting a little bit older. He started to get banged up this year. I think from the locker room perspective, he's still a very talented, running back. But if they did another, we're going to cut him to sign a Breece Hall or a Ken Walker, a little bit younger running back, I don't think that's out of the realm of possibilities. I think that might be a next year thing. They restructure his contract this year, and then that's a next year thing. But I'll put that at 2%. So I want to throw that out there since you brought up his name. I'm not going to take Josh Jacobs here. I took the flyer. I mean, Josh Jacobs would be a good fit. Oh, man. Now I'm trying to think Josh Jacobs.
Jacobs would be a pretty good fit on this team with Hampton and Jigba. You're going Josh Jacobs?
Yep. I was going to take a safe guy, and it's a guy that, again, is lower than I understand why, I guess, maybe. It was him or Kyron Williams. I feel like Kyron Williams is a guy we sleep on all the time and then just ends up being a solid running back option. I thought he'd be a good person to pair with Hampton, but I think Jacobs is a little bit better.
I think Kyron Williams is the poor man's version of Javon Achane, but he never got the draft bump.
So that's a good way to put it.
All right. I want to do something really fun here, but it doesn't make sense with how the team's built because it's running back so far. I think I have to look wide receiver. The thing is, and I don't know if you feel this way because you're Mr. Wide Receiver, a lot of guys with question marks at the top of my board right now.
Yeah, there's definitely some question marks. I think your team would be, I know you're going to be struggling at wide receiver, but I think they might be easier to find later. This is where
Yeah,
I'm looking at, like, does Lamar Jackson come off the board? Does Josh Allen come off the board?
that I was trying to not tip my hand in case I wanted to grab one of them later. But Josh Allen was the guy I wanted to take here, and I think it would be really fun to have a team with Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, and Josh Allen, and then just figure out wide receivers down the road or on free agency because you could beat teams with that trio.
Yeah. And I would not be surprised if there is a solid wide receiver coming back to you in round 4. I feel like wide receiver
Yeah.
is, maybe it's not the guy you want to be your number 1 wide receiver, but just like looking at the board of names, like, you know, do you want to rely on T. Higgins as your wide receiver 1? Probably not. Do you want to rely on AJ Brown as your wide receiver 1? Probably not. Do they even make it back in round 4? Probably not. But, Jameson Williams could be down there. Could you a Garrett Wilson? There's a couple other names as you get down this list of, like, could you really buy into a Zay Flowers breakout with the new thing or a Lad McConkey rebound? Like, there's a lot
Yeah.
of interesting things there for sure.
Yeah, agreed. And I'm gonna go Josh Allen here, just to build that solid 3. But like even if one of those guys comes back around to be my wide receiver 1, I'm not gonna absolutely love it. So I'd rather take a player in this case with this star power team that I absolutely love and try to figure it out later.
Yeah, that's a solid way to look at it. And luckily, a wide receiver is going to get past Team 7 because they've already taken 2. I was considering Josh Allen for this pick. I won't take him because of the wide receivers I have. I will, though, I am going to take Chase Brown, I think.
I like Chase Brown as a running back 1 on a team with 2 big wide receivers.
Yeah, it was him or Kyron. Again, like, it's just like, which one do I want? But I'll take Chase Brown.
Yeah, that's a really good pick to me. I have no complaints for you there. I'm back here now at Team 8, CD Lamb and James Cook. I might go wide receiver here, but none of the guys that we named. I kind of want to go a guy who can take a step because I'm confident in CD as my wide receiver 1. James Cook could win me weeks at running back 1. I'm going to go Tet McMillan.
You dirty dog.
I knew I was like, either he's not on his radar at all or he's trying to play the game and not mention him in case I miss him.
Yes, 100%. That was the goal.
Exactly what I was doing with Josh Allen.
I thought he would be the perfect young wide receiver to compare with Saquon and McCaffrey.
Yes, it really would have been. I don't normally like him as a wide receiver 1, but I mean, that team could be amazing. It also could completely fall apart.
So give me Lamar.
Oh, spicy. That team 9 and team 6 are going to be fighting over wide receivers pretty bad here.
It's okay. I got a plan.
He's got a plan.
Got a strategy. Look, I know we're over an hour, but I feel like we should go 5 rounds. Just saying.
Okay. No complaints. We'll keep it moving.
Let's do 20.
No.
IDP.
I am not prepared for this. Team 10, Devon Achane, Malik Neighbors, turn for 2. Again, like, I feel like I have to take at least 1, maybe 2 wide receivers in this case, just because Neighbors, we don't know if he's going to start the year. We don't know if he's going to be slow to, at all in this year because of the injury and the whole cryptic whatever. There's 2 guys who I think could be very good, and I can't really get on board on because I don't know where they're going to exist next year, and it's T. Higgins and George Pickens.
I feel like George Pickens is going to be back in Dallas.
And even if that's the case, like, this seems like a pretty decent spot for him.
Yeah, I would agree.
All right, we'll go 2 wide receivers. We're going to go he might not be at the same place either. We're two guys and hope one of them stays where they're supposed to be. I'm going to go George Pickens and AJ Brown.
Okay. I was hoping one of those would fall for my guys. I was really Pickens.
It's funny. I'm just working off of Cody's draft list that he didn't know he put on the drive, and I'm just kidding.
So I was hoping to get Pickens there. Probably should have taken this pick. I don't know if you would have taken Lamar with taking Malik Neighbors, but I felt like Lamar deserves to go in round 3. So give me our first stack. Give me Zay Flowers.
If he does the same thing he did this past year but scores more touchdowns, he's going to be great.
That's what I'm hoping for.
He already had well over 1,000 yards, and honestly, that week 18 game was very good by him too, where he finally started scoring the touchdowns. So, no, great pick. I like it. All right. Yeah. See where I have things here. Guys that I think should be going here, but I don't really love them. I've got, 2 receivers, 1 running back on team 8. So I should go running back again. I think I'm going to stop the slide and take Kyron.
Okay. Don't blame you one bit on that one. All right. Are you ready for this pick?
Hold on. Buckle in. Ready.
I'm going to take Jeremiah Love.
Nice. I do not know how to spell his first name.
Jeremiyah. I don't know what team he's going to play on, and I have the right to take that back if he goes to a team with already running backs in place. But I am taking Jeremiah Love.
Oh my God. No, there's going to be some place where he falls in here.
Probably higher.
Probably higher. 4. But not knowing where he's going to go. And I think having more established running backs than the typical year is why he's down here for us. It's really hard to do this on January 29th. Honestly.
I think he's going to be the second Cowboys pick.
But then the question is, do they re-sign Javonte? And if they don't re-sign Javonte, he's going higher than round 4, pick 4.
So I don't actually know. That was just the first thing I thought of. I haven't put too much thought into where he's going to go. But I knew at some point I was taking Jeremiah Love. Why not take him with Team 7? He'd fit right in.
Yeah. All right. Wide receiver 1 in round 4 for Team 6. I am going to, again, skip over T. Higgins because I just don't know. I'm going to take Jameson Williams.
Interesting. Very interesting. Over
This would be the draft where I did this in the first 3 rounds, and then like rounds 4, 5, 6, I would take 3 wide receivers and just be like, 2 of them please stick.
Yeah, interesting. And there's there is number 1s, like Garrett Wilson is still there, but it's like, do you trust who the heck's the quarterback?
Yep.
Is a guy like, and I think Breece Hall, not that you're going to take him because you already have 2 running backs, but like, what team is he on? I think is playing a big factor into this situation. Which puts me on the clock, Team 5, with Jackson Smith and Jigba, Omarion Hampton, Josh Jacobs, for those listening on the podcast version. And for me, I am looking here at the wide receiver position, but I'm not going to take one. I'm going to take Mr. Brock Bowers, Fernando Mendoza's new favorite target.
He's probably, he's one of the people that's like, I would be shocked if it's not Mendoza, his quarterback. So there's at least a little bit of hopefully stability. And Bowers still showed he can do it in spurts. He just didn't have the consistency around him.
Yeah.
Gibbs, Collins, and Henderson on team 4, putting me back on the clock. I said who was here, and so it's 2 running backs and a receiver. My next receiver on my list that I'm going to take for this one, and even though I said I think it's going to be a step down, I think it's still going to be solid. Devontae Adams is going to team 4.
Bro, are you looking at my list? And it's
yes,
it's
DA.
It's Devontae Adams.
There's so many Devontae spelled 7 different ways. Leave me alone.
Okay, fine. I'm full tilt now. I didn't know who
I
was going to
ruined
take.
Cody's draft. I love it.
You did. So I got a question.
Yeah.
And maybe like maybe I just do this for fun.
Yeah.
I feel like we haven't talked about this guy. I feel like he's really low on the board. He might be hurt, and maybe that's why. But like, why not just take Tyreek Hill here?
Because his knee was completely in the wrong direction, but
That's right. His knee was in a really bad. He's probably not going to play for a while.
he also was so loopy coming off the field. I don't know what's up with him. If we get closer and we have signs that he's going to go at least early in the year, he's going here. I would agree. I just don't think we can do that on January 29th.
Okay, fine. Then I'm not going to pick him. I was like thinking about like these names. I'm like, oh, I'm looking at Garrett Wilson. I was looking at Devontae Adams. I don't really know what else I was looking at. I was just looking at Devontae Adams.
He's looking at somebody he doesn't want to say the name of, so I don't take it off his draft board again.
Give me Travis Etienne.
I love Travis Etienne. He had a great rebound year this year. I think he's at least going to be effective next year.
Yeah, I think him or Ken Walker was in discussion, but
Ken Walker's going to probably be somewhere else too, though.
Unless the injury for Charbonnet is long enough, like.
And if that's the case, I don't want to take him any higher than this anyway because they use him too much. Charbonnet, that is.
So give me Travis Etienne.
All right. Team 2 has Puka, McBride, and Genty. Very balanced here so far. I can go anywhere. I have to think there comes a point where Keenan Allen is not as effective as he was most of this season. And I like the Mike McDaniel offense. I'm going Ladd McConkey.
I like it. All right, bro. Is this the last pick? Are you adding one more?
Round 5.
My guy's adding one more. Good, because there's a couple names I wanted to pick. So I'm going to make sure they get picked.
Cool.
However, for this team that has Bijan Robinson, Chris Olave, Rashee Rice, I'm obviously looking at the quarterback position. I'm not looking at the quarterback position. I meant the running back position. Dear Jesus.
There is a quarterback I've seen really high on ranks that we haven't taken yet that I'm interested at some point in talking to you about, but it doesn't have to be now.
Yeah, it's not going to be now.
No.
This is, you know what, YOLO, this is January 29th. I don't care. Give me Cam Scatterboo. Oh,
yes.
Dang it. I got another pick. I was so happy.
You do have another pick here.
But I think Scatterboo, like you saw what he did, I think that'll be a lot of fun. Obviously, Harbaugh's going to want to run the ball. Whoever he brings in for OC will carry that mantra on. And I'm not taking RJ Harvey. I just can't do it. I need to get this guy off of these lists that are so high. I can't do it. I was so disappointed, and I'm just out. And I can't take Garrett Wilson, who's high on this list as well. But yeah. I can take T. Higgins. He's still high on these lists. I'm probably going to take him. Probably should have swapped him. Probably go sooner. But I'm taking T.
T, it got to the point where it was like, I feel like even if he goes somewhere else and it's not a great offense, he's still going to have enough upside to go in round 4, round 5. Some of those other guys, I can't get behind. Denver with Harvey, especially, I feel like they're more likely going to bring back Dobbins or bring in another patchwork guy and let Harvey keep building up or keep working in a complementary role because he did not prove it when he was given the opportunity.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Cool. That's Higgins off the board. I think we've gotten to the point where I have to take Breece Hall because the upside's there, and I hope he goes to a good team.
No, I think that is solid. I was debating him between him and Travis Etienne when I was looking for a running back, and him and Cam Scatterboo, and I just took Cam Scatterboo for the heck of it. But I think Breece Hall, again, if he goes to the right team, we're talking about him in August, in that Justin Jefferson, Trey McBride, Chris Olave, Racey Rice range. If he goes to an even better team, we're talking about him at the Devon Achane, Christian McCaffrey range. So like,
Yes.
high upside. Completely agree.
Cool. Team 3, Chase, Jefferson, Irving, and ETN.
All right. I don't know which one he's actually going to be throwing the ball to, but it'll be one of them. Give me Joe Burrow. He's either throwing to Justin Jefferson in a trade for 9, or he's throwing to Jamar Chase. I'm taking Joe. It's the whole reason I wanted a round 5 is just so I could say that.
He is so far down list, I think, too, isn't he?
I mean, Fantasy Pros
Not as far as I thought. I kind of
about
glazed over him, I think, because there's somebody else that's so far up list. This is even the guy I was talking about.
Are you going to take that guy?
No, I'm not. I'll let you take him if you want to. I'm going to take another guy that I think is very interesting, and we don't know what his injury status is. I want to build this team forward with Gibbs, Collins, Henderson, Adams, and Tucker Kraft.
Tucker Kraft. What a pool. Love it. He was
because
on
if
pace
he comes
to be
back and he's healthy, that is a round 5 steal.
Yeah, and honestly, you probably get him in like round 10 because of the injury in real drafts.
Yeah.
So thank you for giving some respect to this man.
You're welcome. He deserves it.
All right, I'm going to need another wide receiver here for my team of Team 5's Jackson Smith and Jigba, Omarion Hampton, Josh Jacobs, and Brock Bowers. And, you know, we talked a lot about new faces and new places. This guy probably, I mean, he's going to be in the same spot. It's his teammate in a different spot. And if he's the number 1, do I like him even more? But you know what? Give me Devonta Smith.
If AJ.
I already hate this pick. This is me in most drafts. I hate this pick.
Honestly, I feel that way when I take Devonta Smith most of the time too, because it's like he's going to have those few weeks where it's like, I love that I took Devonta Smith. And then most of the time it's going to be like, I am pulling my hair out. And I think a lot of it has to do with having AJ Brown there. If AJ Brown gets moved, Devonta Smith might move to like end round 3, beginning round 4.
Yeah, I can see that. I think
round where we actually took AJ Brown. I'm pretty sure.
I think, yeah, we took him at the beginning of round 4, or you did. I think there is like if the AJ Brown played a factor in that. I mean, obviously, like Terry McLaurin is in here. Getting Jaden Daniels back, he was on my mind. I would even throw like Sutton in here as well. I'm not as big on the Luther Burden breakout, but if DJ Moore is gone, I could see that one being a bigger one. I think Colston Loveland is an interesting name there as well, but I wasn't going to take 2 tight ends. But that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I am with you there. I'm going to take a wide receiver here, and maybe it's the guy I should have taken the last time through. My next throw a dart at a wall and hope a receiver sticks for team 6 is going to be Garrett Wilson.
I understand why he's falling rapidly without the quarterback situation. Very talented, just like complete dud this year. Obviously, injuries played a big factor into that, but I get that a lot.
There was a couple other guys I was tossing up. We'll see if I end up taking him before the end of round 5, but I'm sure we're going to get to the end of round 5 and be like, this guy's close, this guy's close, this guy's close.
All right. For team 7, who currently is Amon-Ra St. Brown, Drake London, Chase Brown, and Jeremiah Love, I think a running back would make sense here if there was one that I liked, just because we don't know about the situation.
That guy is not RJ Harvey.
But I have the opportunity to flex this guy, and I feel like we might be having this conversation with, obviously, injuries were a big part of this year, and he's getting up there in age, but getting him in the flex is, when is he going to fall off? And then he just doesn't fall off. Give me Mike Evans.
I mean, it was also a freak injury. It was a broken collarbone. That can happen to anybody, but it's not like an injury-prone injury. It's not like the guy who, strains his hamstring.
For sure.
So, all right. Team 8. CeeDee Lamb, James Cook, Tet McMillan, Kyron Williams. Yeah. This
Georgia
is
loves
where
him.
I'm just kind of like reeling. Like, I don't know if I wasn't completely prepared for round 5. If it's like a lot of these guys are really close. Do I want to just throw a name out there to mention a name because I think he's going to be around here? That's
Yeah, I mean,
possible.
mention some names. Like we only got 3 more picks.
I mean, Ken Walker probably is going to end up being my pick here. We don't know where he's going to be, but I mean, even if he stays in Seattle with the same situation, it's not a bad value at this point. Quinshawn Judkins is the fun name because I mean, Cleveland's kind of a mess, but like he was pretty good this year. And then we don't know where Javonte Williams is going to be, but he had a breakout and then kind of sputtered down the stretch with injuries.
Yeah, I think they're all interesting names.
But I am going to actually pivot. I'm going to go to wide receiver, despite me mentioning all those running backs. Because we don't know what Tyreek Hill's situation is, I'm going to take Jalen Waddle.
If you wanted to put Jalen Waddle / Tyreek Hill here, I think that'd be okay. But we'll keep it one player. But
cool. I did it because you gave it to me.
Yeah, but you're gonna have to take that off. I don't like seeing it anymore. Take it off.
Fine. Jalen Waddle.
So this is my last pick here, and there's definitely some interesting names, right, that are available. Obviously, I'm not taking another quarterback here. Maybe you'll take him with your last pick. Who knows? However, this one, I probably, if we were doing 6 rounds, which we're not going to do, I would probably wait till the 6th round. But I want to mention this guy, so I'm going to take him here. And I'm going to take Christian Watson.
You stink.
Now, I know injuries have played a big factor, but he had his best season coming off of an ACL. Typically, the year after returning from an ACL is even a better year. If you put his stats into a 17-game pace, he'd have over 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns. Romeo Doubs is probably leaving, so it's either going to be Watson or Golden that has to take a step up. I would not be surprised if Watson ends up getting a contract extension this offseason as well. And because I need high upside on wide receivers, I'm just going to take it with Christian Watson and realize with Zay Flowers and Christian Watson, there will be weeks where they combine for 5 points. I understand that. But there will also be weeks where those two combine for 70 points and the rest of my players don't matter. It's going to be a ride the wave team, and hopefully the team, pans out in the long run. But I wanted to make sure Christian Watson got mentioned.
No, I was like, oh, I'm going to take him at pick 10. And then I looked at the build of that team, and it's HN, Neighbors, Pickens, AJ Brown. Like, it wouldn't have made sense for me to take him. So I'm kind of glad you did now at this point. Maybe I would have taken him in around 6th turn, but at this team build, it's probably better to go running back. So I think my running back turn would have been Judkins and Walker. Now I just have to figure out, like, which one do I actually want to put on this list just for sake of the list. I think I'm going to be fun and go Judkins unless you really think Walker should be in the top 5 rounds.
I think I would go. I think Walker probably deserves it, and I think Judkins, brutal injury at the end of the year might play a factor too.
Yeah.
Hopefully he is able to bounce back. But dude, I took Cam Scottaboo in round 4. If you want to take Quinshawn Judkins, go for it.
I'll put Walker here, because I do think he deserves it too. Strong end of the year. We'll see how he puts it, picks it up through the Super Bowl and where he ends up next year. But he deserves a starting running back position wherever he goes.
Yeah.
Can we talk about this quarterback that's way up on a lot of these lists that I would maybe take in round 6, but not all the way up in round 3 where he is in some places?
Yeah. It took me a while to figure out who it was, but
Drake May.
Now, let me ask you this. If AJ Brown gets traded to his old head coach, Mike Vrabel, and with his rushing ability, does that entice you? I mean, look, we only
round. I might put him around like round 4.
Look, we only took 2 quarterbacks in the top 5 rounds.
Fair.
Like Hurts is
3. You took Joe Burrow.
Oh, sorry, I did take Joe. Yeah, that's right, I did. Obviously, like Jalen Hurts probably is going in here. Drake May is probably going in here. In most, like
Jaden Daniels might be going in here too.
So, I don't know if I'm taking him as like quarterback 3 on the season. I know he finished really well. He had a really good season. Probably be runner up for an MVP. I also then look at their schedule and be like, how much like is there? I think May is really good. I do. I just don't know if like that production. Maybe they get a wide receiver. Maybe they take someone in that becomes their guy, or maybe he takes an even bigger step. Uh, but yeah, top 30 pick doesn't do it for me. But we're also very staunchly late round quarterbacks. Like once again, you could take Drake May in round 3 or 4, or probably get Dak Prescott in round 12 and be like, I think I'll be okay with Dak.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why you and I both have the same feeling on quarterbacks, and why there's probably not as much in the first 5 rounds that's going to be happening in most drafts. But even yet, like, I think, like, example, Fantasy Pros, which is one of my normal go-tos, had him all the way up at 27. If you told me he was down in the 40s with a Jaden Daniels and Jalen Hurts kind of like tier, I'd believe it more.
Yeah. So just, you reference Fantasy Pros real quick, looking at it. Guys below 80. So you're talking round 8 and lower. Dak Prescott, Trevor Lawrence, Caleb Williams, Matthew Stafford, Jordan Love, Bo Nix, Jared Goff, like Baker Mayfield. All these guys are down here. And I'm like, May had a really good season, but this is just a great argument for why. Like, I just named 7 wide receiver or quarterbacks that will go after him, like that I might even take over him. Like, not all of them I would take over Drake May. I'm not saying that, but just it's a very interesting thing this early in the season.
It really is. Anyone else you want to mention that we had not talked about, even though we are way over? This is a great time.
Mock drafts are my favorite.
Oh, yeah.
So a couple others. I mentioned Loveland. I think I would try to pair him with my team 9, maybe. Team 9 is my favorite team on the board currently. Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, Lamar Jackson, Zay Flowers, Christian Watson. Like, I just think that's like the perfect complement, perfect balance. Maybe I would take, Loveland in round 6 kind of thing. So I wanted to mention him. I would also be like looking at some guys, like which Jacksonville wide receiver do I like?
Mm-hmm.
Is it Jacoby Myers? Is it Brian Thomas as I get into round 6, 6, 7? Do people still do that? I don't know. And then the last name I want to mention is just Marvin Harrison Jr., who started to break out again and then got hurt. Obviously had the appendix, then the foot. Like, that situation is a mess there. But if it's Brissett again, I would have to think that bodes well for Marvin Harrison Jr. and a guy that you could get in round 7, maybe even round 8. And I don't know how much higher he's going to rise because he's burned a lot of people his first 2 years after being such a hype. He might be a late round flyer that I'm targeting, like a very George Pickens-esque pick from last year, like that round 8, 9, and then had a big breakout.
It's gonna hurt less if he doesn't do well in this case too, because so much of this, like, this guy did bad, is based off of hype, and the hype is no longer there now. So if you draft him in round like 8-ish, which seems like about where he's at rankings wise right now, I think it's a great pick because the upside of round 3 is there.
I would agree. Any of these teams on here like stick out to you, like on January 29th, favorite draft spot?
I like Team 9, but Team 9 is super risky.
For sure.
I think Team 8 is probably one of my favorites. I'm liking this bottom half of the draft.
Yeah, and I think you could put them together, right? Like,
10,
8, 9, or 8, 9, 10. Who says 10, 8, 9? 8, 9. I'm so sorry that we've been talking too long. That's just thrown me for 8, 9, 10. Like, looking at the players that were available when you picked, like, if you swapped out Lamar Jackson for Teteroa McMillan and then took a late round quarterback or something along those lines, or like, I'm with you. Compared to like, while I like the top, I
Mhm.
do think team 3, the Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Bucky Irving, Travis Etienne, Joe Burrow, is interesting to say the least.
I think that's my favorite of the top. No, maybe not. I think like team 4, but again, team 3, 4, put those together. We
Right.
could find a combination that's like one of my favorites. So I think you're at team 3, 4, team 9, 8, 9.
Yeah,
Like
that's
those
kind
are
of where I'm at.
the hot spots in the draft from what I'm seeing. Yes.
Yeah, and that might move to like team, 5 through 7 if it was a 12-man league or something like that, just because of how the things will shift. But we have plenty of time to mock draft different settings all offseason.
Mm-hmm. Couple guys really quick that I like. I was looking specifically at like how I could fix team 6 is wide receiver position specifically. And like guys that you could take instead of Garrett Wilson, Jamison Williams. Terry McLaurin's high on that list. If you think he's going to stay healthy, the upside's there.
Like that.
Cortland Sutton was kind of like a ball of consistency this year. He wasn't great, but he was consistent. And then if you think the step on Emeka Buka, if you either don't believe Mike Evans is going to be back for some reason, or like you think Ibuka is going to be a bigger part of the offense, he showed he has the ability. I think he was playing hurt a lot of the second half, which really hurt his cause.
No, I think that makes a ton of sense. So I am right there with you. Well, we just hit the 90-minute mark, so I feel like we should wrap up.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Any last words before I hit this music?
Another way too early fantasy mock draft coming on. I'm looking forward to doing a lot more of these in September. I don't know about you, so make sure you're like subscribed to get those.
We are not waiting till September to do
August.
Another one of these.
My bad. August.
Dude, we're probably going to start mock drafting in April, like right after the draft. We're probably going to have like a "what do we do now" mock draft, because that's what we love to do, and that's why it's a great time to remember that we are a year-round podcast. For the most part, we take about a month off after the Bowl, but we will be back next week with 2 episodes. So make sure you're staying tuned in to the Couch GMs podcast, who is live Mondays and Thursdays during the NFL season, 6:30 p.m. Eastern on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook. If you've made it for 90 minutes, please hit the subscribe button. We would love to hear that. No football this weekend, but we'll be back next week getting this ready for the big game. I'm Cody Roadcap. That's George Kirk. We'll talk to y'all.